May the peace of the Lord be with you all. As we bring to you the readings of today's Holy Mass, come, let us now listen to the Word of God. July 23, 2025. Optional Memorial of Saint Bridget of Sweden, Religious.
A reading from the book of Exodus. The whole congregation of the Israelites set out from Elim, and Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after they had departed from the land of Egypt. The whole congregation of the Israelites complained against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. The Israelites said to them, "If only we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots and ate our fill of bread, for you have brought us out into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger." Then the Lord said to Moses, "I am going to rain bread from heaven for you, and each day the people shall go out and gather enough for that day. In that way I will test them, whether they will follow my instruction or not. On the 6th day, when they prepare what they bring in, it will be twice as much as they gather on other days." Then Moses said to Aaron, "Say to the whole congregation of the Israelites, 'Draw near to the Lord, for he has heard your complaining.'" And as Aaron spoke to the whole congregation of the Israelites, they looked toward the wilderness, and the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. The Lord spoke to Moses and said, "I have heard the complaining of the Israelites. Say to them, 'At twilight you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall have your fill of bread, then you shall know that I am the Lord your God.'" In the evening quails came up and covered the camp, and in the morning there was a layer of dew around the camp. When the layer of dew lifted, there on the surface of the wilderness was a fine flaky substance, as fine as frost on the ground. When the Israelites saw it, they said to one another, "What is it?" For they did not know what it was. Moses said to them, "It is the bread that the Lord has given you to eat." The word of the Lord. Responsorial Psalm. The response is, "The Lord gave them bread from heaven." They tested God in their heart by demanding the food they craved. They spoke against God, saying, "Can God spread a table in the wilderness?" The Lord gave them bread from heaven. Yet he commanded the skies above, and opened the doors of heaven. He rained down on them manna to eat, and gave them the grain of heaven. The Lord gave them bread from heaven. Mortals ate of the bread of angels, he sent them food in abundance. He caused the east wind to blow in the heavens, and by his power he let out the south wind. The Lord gave them bread from heaven. He rained flesh upon them like dust, winged birds like the sand of the seas. He let them fall within their camp, all around their dwellings. The Lord gave them bread from heaven. The seed is the word of God, Christ is the sower, all who come to him will live forever.
A reading from the Holy Gospel, according to Matthew. On that day Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea. Such great crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat there, while the whole crowd stood on the beach. And he told them many things in parables, saying, "Listen. A sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seeds fell on the path, and the birds came and ate them up. Other seeds fell on rocky ground, where they did not have much soil, and they sprang up quickly, since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched, and since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil and brought forth grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. Let anyone with ears listen. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Hello, hello, hello. Today is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad. Welcome to Jack of Clubs. May God bless and keep us all, bring us into eternal communion, and help us to always have a great time here. Today, we're going to be hopping into our review of the first ever Mladifest USA. I'm very excited to be doing that. It's been, a long time coming, talking about going to this event. I've been very excited about it. And I gotta say that I lived up to the hype. So I'm very, very happy to say that. I'm looking forward to breaking it all down with you all today. Before we do that, I do want to take the opportunity to real quick, a couple bookkeeping things. I want to welcome anyone who is new here. You can find all about us on our About page. Find out where we stream, what we do, so on and so forth. It's great to have you. Thank you to everyone who is here today. And then also know that this is the beginning of our Bandcamp week. So that's why, you have freshly showered Jack, still dripping wet a little bit earlier the day stream. Kind of an awkward time. This stuff all does end up on YouTube, so you can always watch the VODs later. But that will be over the next 4 weeks, so just bear that in mind. Slight schedule change. We're going to be doing more regularly Monday, Thursday, Friday, rather than Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So just know that coming up. All right, well, without further ado, so this is the way that we're going to kind of break this down. So there, something we talk a lot about on the channel is the fact that joy is one of the highest callings of the Christian. It is the spirit of the resurrected Jesus to live in a spirit of positivity, and to looking at the world as something that Christ has conquered and is constantly being brought into that reality, something that we can wholeheartedly celebrate. So we are going to try to focus on that. I'm going to talk about the positives first, then we'll kind of squeeze in the middle, things that could be improved upon, we'll put it that way, and then talk about at the end things I'm excited about for upcoming Mladifest, because they have said that there will be more. I absolutely 110% plan to be at the next one, and so there's a lot to be excited about there. We'll talk about that too, and kind of the way we're going to be looking at this. We're going to be breaking it down mostly into pros and cons, but on broader sense, we're going to be looking at three things. We're going to be looking at the quality, the event's ability to give the Medjugorje experience. So for context, I am someone who, thanks be to God, I've had Medjugorje as a part of my entire life. I was in Medjugorje literally in the womb of my mother. It's been a part of my life since I was a baby. I've been to Medjugorje. I've been to apparitions that happened in the U.S., both through Yvonne, who lives out here. Has even come out to a parish to do a talk near me at one point. I've been to the place in Alabama, Caritas at Birmingham, where Maria comes all the time. Large portion of the apparitions for that visionary has happened there. I've been there like 15 times. It's almost a yearly thing at this point. And so those are the things I'm going to kind of be using as a reference point for how well Mladifest was able to give that experience of, we hear all about the conversions and the great power that comes through the blessing of having the Medjugorje experience. And so how well were they able to bring that to the people who attended? That's going to be number one thing. Number two is going to be just personal experience. How was it for me? Did it have an impact on my life? Was it something that appealed to kind of me, and also on a broader sense, kind of, my normal viewership? And then lastly, how well was it organized? What the location, to the scheduling events, what type of events they had, kind of the, more communal side of the experience. So we're talking about those three things broadly, as we go through the whole pro and con list. Kind of a little bit ajar here, so let's make this easier on the eyes. I didn't get to show this off earlier. I got this fixed, by the way, guys. I know we had our backup crucifix for a little while. Grateful to have that back. I am wearing, right now, the Mladifest USA t-shirt. Some Jack lore that has not been disclosed before is that my first ever job was working at a warehouse. One of the things we did was embroidery, and a nerd thing that is not going to be said by, and totally unique to the Jack of Clubs, channel. Only person who would even think about something like this is I can say that I do appreciate the quality of the shirt. Very well made. I love how comfortable it is. So kudos to them on that. It was a good sign. It was a good first impression. So from top to bottom, we'll talk about like the material side first, and then kind of go into the spiritual side, and then the organizational side. So pros on the spiritual side. We just talked about this. This is great. They gave that out to everyone. Money wise, really, they did a really good job of making it affordable. It came out to in here. We'll pull up some visuals so you guys don't just have to stare at me the whole time. It came out to about $350 for not including travel. That is something worth noting. It came out to about $350 for the food, for all the talks, and for the dorming as well. So they provided both the college dorm. So they did this at a college called Trinity in Chicago, Palos Heights, Illinois. I would say the facilities were pretty good. Not we'll get into that later. But what was I thinking? They did at Trinity College, so the price came up to about $350, and for that, that's a pretty good bang for your buck. In a normal weekend, you're spending $30 to $50 depending on where you're from on like food a day, and that's covered in that. You get every meal while you're there, for the time that you're there. So you get dinner the first day, breakfast, lunch, dinner the second, breakfast, lunch on the third day. Sorry, fresh out of the shower. Sinuses do not like me. So you get that for $350, and that's a pretty good deal, especially for traveling out of state, traveling to a more expensive state in the United States, like Illinois. That price for food, $70 to stay 3 nights, is way better than a hotel, though it is worth noting I can't really speak to it because I did not use it. I used the dorm, but they did have a partnership with a hotel nearby. They got a little bit of a better deal, which is great, especially for people who are, have families rather than coming individually. So that is cool too that they had that as an option. But yeah, $70 for 3 nights of stay, or is it $70 a day? I think it was just $70 overall. Yeah, includes both Friday and Saturday nights. It's just $70. I have a trip coming up to Nashville in August. I wish I could get a deal of $70 for 2 nights. That's incredible. So they did a really good job of making, and that's the number one thing I would say they did well organizationally. Kind of skipping ahead there in a second. Is the practical side of things, is making everything happen, making it doable for anyone who wanted to be there, providing all the resources you might need to make it happen. Is probably the one of the most like fluid, natural, and easy events I've attended in a very long time in terms of knowing where I have to be, when I have to be there, making it all happen. Very, 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 very well streamlined, which is impressive for something that is really an international event. This was, it was in the USA, but there were people there from Australia. There were people there from Spain. A lot of the people who are doing the talking are people who, live in the area of Bosnia-Herzegovina. Thank you. I appreciate you stopping in, Slothy. Speaking of Croatia, it is good to see you. May God bless you, friend. You're not far from Medjugorje out there. Other things that were pros on the practical side. Food was pretty good. I would say, you get what you pay for. It wasn't compared to Paris Island, compared to other college campuses I've been to, not quite that quality, which is something of note we'll go over later more in depth. But it was still good. I still enjoyed it. It was very nutritious. I can certainly say that. Your volume's down, so I can't hear what you say. So type in chat. Got you. I'll do that real quick. Just say thank you for stopping in. I got you, Slothy. the stuff that they provided was pretty good. I gotta say, you also got, some of these things from that initial purchase. So I did not, there were a lot of tables there that were great as well. I had great stuff for anyone who does not have a lot of Medjugorje stuff. Bye, Salty. I do, so I didn't have, especially being, on streamer budget, I did not have a lot to spend on stuff like that. So I was very grateful that stuff just kind of came with the package. So a little bit of water damage on here because I got caught in the rain, but this is probably my favorite thing. We'll start with that, is Mirror, Mirror, Mirror. It is just 365 days of Our Lady's messages. You can pull it up here. So daily inspiration. I love having this. Makes it super easy to approach the messages in that fashion. So I tend to use this every day for the next year. I will say something that's coming to the channel starting our next Instagram post is going to be a message of the day. So stay tuned for that. What else we got in here? They give us this package. This came right with it. So I haven't even opened it yet. I wanted to do a little bit of an unboxing when we got here. Thankfully, I have a lot of this stuff already, but you have instruction of how to pray the rosary. Say it's something that's new to you. You have all this here, an explanation of the mysteries. Even comes with meditations, which I think are just wonderful. A lot of people really struggle with that side of the rosary. Just kind of get the more monotonous side of it, the mechanical side. And then they feel kind of dry because they don't feel like, they're really able to put their whole heart and soul into it. But it really helps when you have things that can assist you in really getting into the meditation on the life of Christ. This is kind of their social media thing. It tells you where to find them. If you knew how much I love you, you would cry of joy. It's one of my favorite messages of Our Lady. I love they have that on the back there. Fantastic. What we got here? Okay, just another little card there. Brings you straight to their website, I think. That QR code. Their website for this event you can see up there, and they have links to the Mir Information Center, which is the organization that conducts this. This is fantastic, because not only is this, telling you what the 5 stones, kind of the 5 main messages of Medjugorje are. We'll get into that very soon. But it gives you 5 stones from Medjugorje, which I think is just fantastic. I'm going to add that, honestly, to a little shrine I have over there with my Bible and everything. That's beautiful. I do have a rock up there right now from Apparition Hill, and I can go there with that, as well as something from Cross Mountain in the U.S., I think, and something from another place in the U.S. And then, of course, a rosary itself. Not going to unpackage it quite yet. Might gift this as a gift to a friend because I have a bajillion rosaries, but honestly, I'll probably keep it for myself. It's my first ever Mladifest rosary. I can appreciate the fact that for something they're just giving out kind of, basically for free for just attending. It's obviously just, a nice plastic rosary. But it's not a crappy one. It doesn't have like frills all over the place, poorly cut or anything. It's well made. And white's a great color for that, for Medjugorje. Could have gone with blue or white, really. I think white was a good choice. Yeah, that's cool. I got the map here. Give you a nice campus map when you're there. Personal information on that. I followed it up. I had several of these when I was there. Not really something to show off too much, but the campus was cool. It was a very nice campus. Just come in here. They give you this notebook to take notes on the talks. I loved that. A lot of pictures from Our Lady. They have in here, where heaven meets earth. I got that, and so you can go all through that, and then I think the last thing that they gave you directly was this pen. So they give you a nice pen to take notes with as well, which I really appreciate that. It's a matter, from rosary on the spiritual side, a matter of heart and of prayer, and then a more intellectual side, and a practical side, being able to bring that conversion power home. You have a notebook and a pen. This tells a degree of thoughtfulness going into making sure that you have the resources needed to change your life. So there's a lot of other stuff in here for other people who had tables at the event. Not really going to go into those right now, but there were a lot of great options from all sorts of just wonderful places. People like from various religious orders to various Medjugorje apostolates, so on and so forth. Shalom World News, or Media, I think it is. Let's see, I have it here. ShalomWorld.org. Also got a little bit moist there, but ShalomWorld.org. Truly, a great site that's out there. If you don't use it, I would highly recommend. Some of the highest quality, like Christian Catholic content on the internet, and that is saying something. We're thankfully having a little bit of a revival in that sense. Places like Angel Studios, the people who make the chosen, not Angel Studios are not the people who make the chosen. The people who make the chosen are another group I'm adding there, so on and so forth. There are a lot of great people out there. Shalom is up there with all of them. Like their documentary quality is probably on par with something like the chosen. So I would highly recommend that. They give you this nice bag. Always going to appreciate that. Just having something to carry your stuff around. You especially someone like me ends up using a lot of like their day packs to pack their clothes and stuff so stubbornly instead of breaking out the suitcase. Had that there. I'm not going to show really, I'll just cover it up here. My name on there. Don't want to dox myself, but there we go. I think that's good. Can't really see it too well, but let's do this. Let's go to the house of the Lord, Psalm 122:1. We do have it as 121:1 on the stream. Our Bible doc uses Douay Rheims, slightly different version of the Bible. Ends up being a slightly different place, but got a full weekend pass here. Very well made. Just a great tool for making sure everyone's in the right place at the right time. It gets you into all the meals, and I did love they had the schedule on the back. This is a great, if you went to the Eucharistic conference and like that, you have stuff like that too. Kind of guides you. Didn't break or anything. Didn't get, destroyed in the rain. So, well made. I appreciated that. Let's see if there's anything else I can talk about on the physical side. I did love the camp. It was a very beautiful part of, of Illinois. I loved the campus. It was very comfortable. I know that will vary depending on the person. I had some people in my group say that it felt like an insane asylum in the dorm room, and then you had me who's been to Paris Island, who for me I was like, this is great. Like I've been in something that's basically an insane asylum, and this is fantastic in comparison. Katar, we just subscribed for the 7th month in a row. I don't know if she's even here. It may have just rolled over, but thank you so much, Kaylin. We're always grateful for her presence here in this community. Gotta shout that out. 7 months in a row. Been woo! Good to see you, Kaylin. Thank you for being here. I also saw your very nice message in Discord today. I meant to get back to you. I've just been running around. I will respond to that directly tonight. But thank you so much for that, and thank you for being here. You've been subbed for as long as we've been an affiliate, basically. You've been here since before we were an affiliate. So you're just keeping, your subscriptions keeping pace with the channel. You're celebrating all the same anniversaries, basically. So thank you so much for it. We really appreciate it. Makes it possible to do this. Like, right before I went on this trip, I was kind of like, oh, am I going to be able to like pay for my food when I'm there? And I got a $100 paycheck from Twitch this last month. Like that, even at the beginning, it was like 50 some dollars. So that kind of thing, just keeps me going, makes this possible. I really, really appreciate it. So keeping going here. It was a great campus, beautiful part of the country. Had no problems with anything like that. Everything worked really well. Really nothing but nice things to say about it. I had everything I could need. Even compared to like my experiences with Medjugorje, my experiences in Alabama, my experiences other places. I would say it was very comfortable as a trip, which really does help. While I appreciate that it's very much a part of the Medjugorje experience to kind of get out into nature more and to have more time to just be removed from distractions and also the comforts of life, to kind of just spend time with God. I do like also having the ability to go from those places to retreat somewhere where really there's just no distractions, because it is just everything's taken care of. Bathrooms there, showers there, a lot of quality stuff. The food was, the food was good. There's a picture of that on my Instagram. You could check that out. I don't want to spend too much longer on that. It's kind of the least important thing. Moving on to the Medjugorje experience. So, what was I thinking? Honestly, it's probably, I'm trying to do this in such like a organized, structured way. It's probably easier to just shoot from the hip. So good and bad, I would say that I very much felt it. I very much felt the presence of Our Lady. Again, having been to Medjugorje, having been other places, there's very distinctive signs outside of course, just the natural stuff that St. Paul talks about. Stuff like peace, see the fruits of the Holy Spirit in the people there. You see people's lives changing. You meet people from all over different parts of the world, and you're just moved by their stories, and you're moved by what brought them there and what they're getting out of it. I met a lot of, I walked out with plenty of names I didn't know before. And all of them had a personal experience that brought them closer to God when they were there, which is the number one thing you're looking for when you're going to do anything like this. The number one sign that anything like this is authentic and really something that God wants done. Very much felt that the entirety of the time. Truly, honestly, even compared to places like Medjugorje and Alabama, some of the most like polite and friendly and kind and truly grace-filled and holy people I've had the opportunity to meet. We were talking about something like this. Nothing but pleasant experiences. Everyone, that's really the biggest takeaway for me. The biggest positive was just seeing how excited people were. People who probably spend most of their lives not really having a lot of community or getting, being surrounded by other people who are similarly excited about God, what God is doing in the world, including and especially through Medjugorje. And them just being able to be in this place where there were hundreds of attendees. I think it may have gone up to 1,000. It's hard to track because while some people came for all 3 days, like myself, other people, just came for one day. The auditorium, big room, almost always full. So yeah, there was a lot of people there, and just great to see that many people there, and that gave so many people such hope, and everyone was so excited to meet new people. There wasn't a lot of like anxiety. You walk into a room with someone you don't know yet, you say hello. It was a beautiful thing. I would also say that for me, one of the hallmarks is that something changes in my life. There are things personally on my heart in my own walk with Christ I feel I was able to improve upon, questions I was able to get answers to. And number one, first and foremost, just like being revitalized, being renewed, having a renewed passion, a renewed hope, a renewed joy for all things spiritual. Absolutely got that. Things that could be improved upon in that regard. I would say, I really, what I can tell you what happened here, from my assessment, is that, they're mostly they're wanting to set this up. The number one thing they're looking at, which is the number one thing they did really well, is making sure that just everything happens, everything's affordable, everyone makes it at the right times, everything there was punctual, everything that happened right on time, everything that you were supposed to have was provided for the most part. That was a little bit of an issue, especially when it came to the meal prep stuff. The dining halls, honestly, probably where things suffered the most. We'll come back to that, but they focused on just making it happen, and then from there, they kind of relied upon for this first one, kind of talent packing, basically, is the way I would put it. It was like 90% talks. If we go to the schedule here, like from check-in to closing, you had Mass, you had the Holy Hour, which are really the highlights in my opinion. And I gotta say, the talks, like, when I say talent packing, these were talented people. These were some of the best talks I have experienced my entire life, including things I've listened to just on a podcast or anything like that. And that's saying something, because I listened to a stupid amount of those things, and that's not me being hyperbolic when I say that these are some of the most impactful words I've ever heard spoken in front of a mic. So kudos to them on that. They knew what they were doing. And so they filled the time with people who they knew they could rely upon to give that experience, and use that kind of as a crutch. That would be kind of the downside, both on an organizational side and on the Medjugorje experience side. Like some stuff that you just like kind of basically expect from Medjugorje experience. Like when you're a Medjugorje, like Our Lady comes every day. We never once stopped in Medjugorje at apparition time, which would have been 11:40 there. Every knee in like the metropolitan area hits the floor. Bells are ringing. Everyone knows that it's happening. You all stop to pray. I remember when I'm at home, like I have an alarm set on my phone. Not only was it not recognized there, but there are other things going on at those times. Like there were times I forgot. There were times I forgot that Medjugorje was actively happening when I was at the Medjugorje festival. So that's definitely something to improve upon. And then as well, just while there were two things I felt like could have been improved upon in terms of like the message being put out. One of them kind of got fixed over time over the talks. I still feel like they could have consolidated and presented it, in different order that would have made it easier to digest. But like they talk a lot about the call to action, what we're called to do, that God is calling us to be more engaged in the world, and so on and so forth. And I talked about where we're going, telling it's all about getting to heaven and about seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and that's great and all. And then they also tell you all about Medjugorje, and they tell you about the fruits of Medjugorje. 50 million people have traveled to there over the last 40 some years of the apparitions. There have been hundreds of, millions of conversions. Millions of people have had their lives changed from all different religions, all different backgrounds. Numerous vocations, like just an unreal amount of people brought into religious life. All these wonderful things, healings, prayers answered that people have had on their hearts the entirety of their lives. Truly miraculous things. One of the speakers had a brain tumor healed from like the very most inward part of their brain, where no surgeon, they went to clinics all over the world, no one was willing to go in there. Tumor just disappeared. Stuff like that happens all the time in Medjugorje. I've been in Medjugorje. I've heard the stories. I've seen. I've not. It's not something that's ever happened to me in terms of that stuff. But like the size and scope of apparitions, not only matches stuff like Fatima, but well exceeds stuff we've seen before. So all that's great. Number one thing, the biggest thing that about Medjugorje is always the personal experience. It's always the fact that people walk out of there feeling like God is a real person that they know and are in love with, and feel loved by, rather than just someone that they've heard about, far off distant God kind of an idea. That is the number one fruit of Medjugorje. You see time and time again, in abundance, and drives people to continue to spread that, to change their lives, to make the world a better place. So much fruit of Medjugorje. And so that's what we're looking for. Like if you go there, if you're going to the Medjugorje Youth Festival, 9 people out of 10 are going to know what Medjugorje is. The number one thing we're looking for is, okay, how do we get that? Like, give me that experience. And that's, what you get that from in Medjugorje. You get that from having time to go off and pray. You get that from honoring the apparition. You get that from seeing the way people live. You get that from doing the fasting that Our Lady is calling you to. And you get that through meeting other people. And those are all the things I feel like we're really missing here. There was the holy hour, one of the best holy hours I've been to. The holy hours that they had. Some of the best masses I've been to. Some of the best homilies I've heard. Truly inspiring to see the way that they conducted themselves during Mass. Some of the closest I felt to God in a really long time. That's all great. Those are like 2-3 hours of the day. The rosary is well conducted as well. I got to give them props as well for or structuring that to be in line with messages from Our Lady and so on and so forth. That was all great. But outside of that, like you didn't really have a lot of time to just go and process on your own. Like what was God saying to you personally? There wasn't a lot of time for individual adoration where we weren't being prompted to. During the holy hour, most of the time there, well, you have those moments of silence. A large portion of that is engaging in the singing and so on and so forth. And even during the silent part, like part of being able to really listen to the voice of God is being able to set apart a point in time where you really don't have a structure like end time. Like you just kind of let it naturally flow. And those are the kind of things that were missing. And outside of the Adoration Chapel, there wasn't a lot of places to go. And while I appreciate the fact that, they kind of had, because of who organized it, kind of needed to be in the Chicago area, like, it wasn't a Catholic campus. So there wasn't, it wasn't even a Catholic campus, so there wasn't really an actual chapel. Mass was in an auditorium. There wasn't a lot of places to go and just, like, pray. A lot of silent places you could go and find. You're limited to kind of, just the few spaces you had on the campus. You could go to your room, but not a lot of places to just sit and be in nature with God. And then also on a community side, when it comes to getting to know people, regardless of it even it being a part of a Medjugorje experience, just any retreat I've ever been on would probably surpass what we had there. And I think that it's something that kind of just, unfortunately, did not make the prior, rank high on the priority list. It kind of got overshadowed. Something that it feels like they almost really just forgot about. Because like any other place like this I've been to, at the very least, you have something like during meals, you encourage people to sit with other people. You make it, to help people to bridge that gap is really, the organizer has the authority to kind of step outside social awkwardness by bringing people together who normally wouldn't, facilitating conversation that might not organically happen, changing seating arrangements, so on and so forth. By virtue of just being, in a college, dining hall, and having all the, most of the tables are like three people to the table. You really don't get a chance to interact with people outside your group. The meals are like 45 minutes. You spend most of the time just cramming food to get to the next talk. And it's a talk and a talk and a talk and a talk and a talk with really no breaks in between, to spend time getting to know people, even just like hang out with people. Like I know it's not something you often think of on a retreat, but you kind of do just need time to let people talk or even engage in the kind of recreation, with each other to get to know each other and build those relationships that they can then bring home. People go there to meet people. Most of the things that they did, are things that really could have been marketed for like 55 plus. It's as harsh as that sounds, it's just simply like all the talks are great, but they're all live streamed. They're all live streamed. I could have listened to them at home. I could have had adoration at home. I could have gone to confession at home, which confession, that's something I haven't pointed out yet, that is a great positive. I had it going on pretty much the entire time. Very true to the Medjugorje experience, and some very insightful and holy people in those confessionals. I could have gone to confession at home. I could have gone to mass at home every single one of those days. Um, Nothing. The only thing that that was unique, that was something that I could have had here that I couldn't have had at home, is the people, and that's the thing I had the lowest amount of time to spend with. And so that's something I think that could be improved upon, especially for young people. We feel our biggest concerns are stuff like feeling disconnected. Give us the opportunity to build relationships and facilitate that. Don't just give the opportunity. People need to be pushed into stuff like that. Not necessarily forced, but like when you sign up for something like this, you give your consent to the event organizer to like push you a little bit outside of your comfort zone for the sake of building a relationship. Introduce me to someone I haven't met yet. Give me some guided questions to help me through that. Yes, some people, that's kind of the thing they have to bite the bullet for, but they're willing to do it because they want to meet new people, make new friends, do that for them. And you're really the only people that can do that for them. There's no time between talks. There's no time after everything's done. It's time to go to bed, so on and so forth. So make that happen. Would be something that I think would be a massive improvement. Really, in that kind of thing, from my Boy Scout experience, you do something that's just kind of like an icebreaker, a fun, recreational kind of thing. You do something that kind of has guided questions for people to get to know each other. And then you do allow for then some open time, where there's just stuff to do that people could voluntarily go to do. Board games. I will say by virtue of being in dorms, I got to play some board games with some other attendees, get to know them that way. Just as something to do while we're talking about God and Jesus and Mary. That was great. Have more of that. But, before you have that, you want to kind of introduce people to each other so they can organically, from there, say, okay, this is my kind of person. This is who I want to hang out with. And from there, we'll kind of organically plan something from the options you gave. Also, like, put what state you're from on the lanyard. Like, I don't know. If I want to get to know people, my priority is going to be people who live somewhere near me. Especially talking about young people, even the people on the state were saying, pray for God to bring you to your person. Great. This would be a great opportunity to meet someone like that. But I hate to break it to you, like, I'm not going to, walk up and try to get the number of someone that could potentially live in an entirely different country, where I haven't had any opportunity to have any sort of like conversation with them beforehand. Like, it's just not something people do. So it's something that's even smart for people to do, and it's something the young people very much want to have the opportunity to do. So make that possible would be something, would be some constructive criticism. Again, just the Medjugorje experience. Give us the community interaction. Give us the apparition time. Give us give us the prayer time. Give us the fasting. This is the first Medjugorje thing I've ever been to that has had events on a Medjugorje fasting day, where it wasn't even like they didn't even mention that Our Lady calls people to bread and water fasting on Fridays, Wednesdays and Fridays, until after Friday. And on Friday, there really were no options presented for people who wanted to try that. But a big part of Medjugorje is, trying out the messages. You set apart this time to say, okay, let me learn what Our Lady is calling us to do, and then let me try it. So, tell people about fasting, give them that opportunity. Yeah, so stuff that really could have been done at home, stuff that really I felt like was missing kind of the core Medjugorje experience. All that being out of the way, the negatives, positives, these people felt very much like they knew the messages, very much like they were all wholeheartedly invested in the mission of Our Lady, that they loved every single person who was in that room, every single person who was watching those talks. There's so much great content. I'm always looking when I'm going to a talk or something. I'm looking for something that's checks all the boxes. It simply gives me emotional food. It makes me feel hope. It makes me feel gratitude. Inspires me to love. On an intellectual level, I kind of learn something new. On a physical level, it's kind of entertaining. I feel I didn't fall asleep or anything like that. Every single doc checked all those boxes from top to bottom. As a rating for the speakers, I would say number one, I didn't get to experience all of them yet. I will say there were a couple I missed. I missed this one. I'm going to watch, and I will say they're all quality enough that other people in my group saw these talks and told me I absolutely have to hear them. So I didn't get a chance to hear these people yet. I watched them in a video. They were great. I didn't get to see him, or him were the other ones that I missed. Everyone else, I think I made it to. I think I made it to Father John Marshall's. Yes, I think I did. Of the ones I experienced, Father Antonio, born and raised around the Medjugorje area, he was my favorite. I felt like he did the best job of weaving everything together, covering all the bases in one talk of who Our Lady is, why we're there, what we're called to do, giving us practical suggestions, but also being engaging and friendly and so on and so forth. Oh, I didn't get to hear hers as well. This was like my sister's favorite, so I heard she was just amazing. For number two is really tied between Father Donko, especially his closing talk. It's 10 out of 10. Thank you. I appreciate it. Welcome to the stream. Good to see you, brother. God bless you. Welcome to the club. Thank you for stopping in. Tell us about yourself. So Father Donko, his closing talk was up there for my favorites. I was actually looking for my brother's stream, but ended up here, and I'm glad I did. Heck yeah! Who's your brother? Shout out, feel free to give him a shout out. Anyone on my stream, anyone from the club, even people watching this later, check them out. You're 3 months into streaming too. Awesome. 150 plus followers. Heck yeah. Energy is next level. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Well, I'll have to check you out too. Let me pull this up real quick. Give you a shout out here. Live pretty recently. 167 followers. Your goal, a streamer who's all about chill vibes, good games, and good times. Join my journey. Let's go together. You got a Discord? Heck yeah. Awesome. I will have to stop in. Like, yeah, your Discord is in your About section, so that'd be great. I'm in, the group that I stream with. My Discord that's linked is not my personal Discord. I'll reach out to yours with mine, or by personal, still like just Jack of Clubs. But the Discord I have linked is a group called The Tavern, which is a group of streamers. We're all about growing together, so I will absolutely hit you up. All right, come back to here because I don't got too much longer, guys. I do gotta get going soon. to get to a doctor's appointment. But Father Dan Rehill, always fantastic. He's up there in the number two, tied in number 2 slot. Father Tim Anastos is another one who is tied up there in number 2. And he didn't really talk about Medjugorje. His talk was mostly on the Eucharist. He just did such a fantastic job of making you fall in love with God and making you realize that God loves you. So these 3, kind of tied with number 2. But everyone else that I heard was great. Immaculée was great. Always has a very inspiring story. Not the first time I heard her. I think the first time I heard her speak was at Caritas of Birmingham. And Vucic, I think I'm saying that right. Very early convert to Medjugorje. She did a great job. Colleen and John Willard, incredible story. They're some of the main organizers, or Colleen is, of the event. She was fantastic. I loved her energy the entire time. Talking about energy. She really brought the most of anyone there, and God bless her for it. Just so in love with everything happening there. So you can read all about these people on that website there. They all did a great job. What else can I talk about? I don't know. I mean, I guess that pretty much covers it. So, stuff I'm excited for coming up. I'm excited to see, what other speakers they bring in. I'm excited to... Oh, before we move on, the last thing I want to say is that I love that they were just so bold. Like, there was never... It feels a lot of times, especially... you hear Catholics talking about the faith, about themselves, about the world. They have to feel very reserved or so on and so forth. And they were just, not in an aggressive way, but just in a way that is so pure and so true and so confident and so joyful. And everything they're talking about God, whether they're talking about the positives or the negatives. Like people, in just the heart of downtown Chicago, bashing the moral issues of today was really inspiring. The way in which they dealt with, some of the... And this is the thing that I love about Medjugorje. Really the thing that is at the core of the Medjugorje experience, in my mind, is when it comes to the faith, the approach of the focus being on the heart. And on kind of this idea that all virtues, all that is good and holy and true and beautiful, begins and ends in the heart. It starts with, the heart willing the good, and it truly becomes complete when it's something that you feel, when it becomes a joy for you to love someone else, to see someone else, and not just like tell yourself that they're your brother and that you ought to love them, but truly to see the good in them and to feel, to feel joy at being in their presence and being able to serve them. And all of these people felt like they were at that level, and they knew how to bring you there, to make you feel loved enough, and to open your mind, and to just everything to help you get to that place yourself. And they talk about all these things in that context. And they did do a good job over the course of the whole thing of explaining something that is, I did, point this out as kind of a con earlier, but as I said, they got to it eventually. And just as a church and as a world, it feels like something we all struggle with is talking about the how. We'll talk about the ends, we'll talk about what the problems are, but how do we actually fix it? They did a very good job of giving the concrete and inspiring people to do it. And not pulling any punches there either. Not saying, when they say pray the rosary, Our Lady says, doesn't just mean one rosary, she means all 4 mysteries, including the luminous. And they did not shy away from saying that. They didn't shy away from saying what fasting was. Didn't shy away from the stones. And that's a wonderful thing. And so that's a wonderful and a beautiful thing. And also the way that they conducted the Mass, and they did it very tactfully in handling the various diversity of ways that we approach the Mass. But also, a very straightforward and holy way, telling, saying, they, Medjugorje, for example, being a European country, they receive primarily on the tongue, primarily on the knees. So they said that. They told you, how to do it if you wanted to receive on the hand, but they also told you, stay by the priest. They weren't going to let anyone walk away with the Eucharist. They told people, what to do if they were not Catholic. And so just a lot of clarity there that feels very confusing, but presented in a way that is both truthful and kind. They are to do that, which is really, you're always looking for those 2 bases. Things get disordered when you have just one or the other. And it's just such a reverent and holy Mass. So much true faith in the fact that Jesus is really there on the altar. So God bless them for that. Yeah, that's kind of what we'll end with, I guess. I said the St. Michael prayer after every Mass, which is not something you're usually supposed to do in Chicago, so I'm glad that they were able to do it and that they did. things I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to seeing the speaker selection grow. I'm even looking forward to seeing some of these people again. I'm guessing that they'll probably switch some around every year, keep some people for a time, and then bring some new people in. Switch them out too. So I'm looking forward to seeing who the new speakers are. I'm looking forward to getting to know more people. I'm looking forward to seeing this expand. And it's really one thing that was also really cool is just seeing, finally, especially someone who's been following Medjugorje for so long, seeing the full weight of the church behind Medjugorje. Seeing, the apostolic visitor from the Vatican, calling into the convention to give an encouraging talk. Seeing the pastor there, seeing the bishop of the Medjugorje area, so on and so forth. All these people, just stopping in to let you know that you're not alone, which is my biggest takeaway. In the house of Lord Jesus is there, and that we're not alone. And that's what they intended to give, and that's what they gave. I'll close it by talking about the stones. Let me mention it here. The stones of Medjugorje are the main messages, and this can even be a kind of a controversial thing in the Medjugorje community. We'll look through Instagram here a little bit too. A lot of posts out here from people who were there. I think. Hey, look at who it is! Look at who it is, guys. Little me. Also, some fun things I found on my journey. We'll talk about later. Just in the Walmart there and stuff. Here's me again. That's some of the adoration. You can see all this on my Instagram. Some of the live music. The music was fantastic. As someone who's a music nerd, about to go to band camp myself, it's a hard thing to practice rehearse things, let alone to practice things like this that were ad-libbed, let alone to practice things that then also have instrumentation, and you're coming up with just natural organic movements during it. Opera Christi, it looks like they're going to be a staple. Absolutely deserve that spot. So all sorts of cool stuff on there, and yeah, so it's great to see. Mladifest in Medjugorje draws about 50,000, and so in the USA, getting a 1,000 showing is a very good start. Hopefully we can get up, come on guys, we're the US. I know we're not actually Medjugorje, but we can get up there. It would be cool to see as well, maybe the location change a few times through history, if not to a different campus, maybe to maybe to a different part of Chicago, also maybe different parts in the USA. Go somewhere. This was something that I felt like was definitely a missed opportunity. The Medjugorje visionary Yvonne lives in the U.S. Why was a visionary not there is something I would want to know. Why did this have nothing to do with something like Caritas, for example, where a lady has been countless times? Give us a little bit of that too, because there is so much Medjugorje connection. Even talk about other apparitions that have been approved and happen in the U.S., like Our Lady of Good Hope, I think, or Good Help, one of the two, in Wisconsin. But could see more there, but very good for the first time still. The stones. So they talk about all 5 of these. Now, again, this is controversial in the Medjugorje world because Our Lady really only gave 4. The visionaries were asked, I forget if it was directly posed to Our Lady or if they just asked the visionaries what were the main message of Medjugorje, and she gave 4. So she gave 4. We kind of have a situation like the Luminous Mysteries, which is another debate all over Catholic X nowadays, where they added in one, and they also changed kind of what one of them was. Our Lady, for example, said penance, and the church said stone is monthly confession. Meaning is slightly different, and that I see the pros and cons of both. The stuff Our Lady said originally, being prayer with the heart, being scripture, being fasting, and being penance. Actually, I think even scripture may have been peace, if I remember correctly. Those things, the way that she presents herself is very much an outreach to the entire world, to even Protestants, to people who are even of other faiths. There are a lot of people who come there who are Muslims, for example, because Muslims do have a veneration of their religion for the Blessed Virgin. And so the main messages were things that were appealing to everyone, and we kind of made them more explicitly Catholic, and there's pros and cons to that. And like the Luminous Mysteries, I think actually both are valid. It's both worth pointing out. This is what Our Lady gave the first time. But also the very spirit of Marian apparitions is the idea that as we go through the ages, what the needs of the time are changes, and that we can trust the church as well, both through vision, both through apparitions, and just through their, the clergy's prayer with God, their walk with God. their authority to kind of guide us in how do we respond to the challenges of the age. So I think it's both worth pointing out, what Our Lady said explicitly, but also what the church is calling us to, because, and all these things are in the messages. She does talk about the Eucharist, which is the one they explicitly added. Scripture, absolutely. Monthly confession, absolutely. Stuff that she has all talked about, and so it's all true. And, especially if you're putting them as the stones instead of the main messages, absolutely works for me. It's a beautiful devotion. The 5 stones of Medjugorje, as they're understood today, are prayer with the heart, and explicitly, especially the Rosary, the Eucharist, Holy Bible, fasting, and monthly confession. And as for fasting, it's bread and water, Monday, Friday. I do that every week. Even for personal intention, I started doing stuff on Mondays now and again. Medjugorje has been massively fruitful in my life. Can't thank God enough for it. There is a stream, if you want to hear me talk about it more in depth, that I did during around the time of the anniversary. Around June 25th is the anniversary. So you can go back on YouTube and find that video if you want to hear me talk about it more in depth and my own personal experience with Medjugorje. I also probably talk more about it in depth, later on as well. For tonight, that's all we really have time for. I very much appreciate everyone coming out. I hope you guys all had a good time. Hope you guys got to know more about Medjugorje. I'm looking forward to seeing how this grows. I can't wait to get my second shirt. I am so grateful to God and Our Lady for the grace of being able to be at the first, because I can, you can feel it when you're there. Both from the fact that it's no coincidence that it happened to be in Chicago. Like, they picked the location well before, Pope Leo became the Pope. This is something that is going to change the world. This is a very important thing. This is a historic event. I'm so grateful to have been there, and so happy to be able to share it with you guys. Let's go next year. Let's go next year. Anyone, Jacket Club's trip, let me know. I'm going. We'll meet you guys there. As always, everyone, may God bless and keep us. Bring us all into eternal communion. Help us always have a great time here. Thank you all so much for coming out. God bless. Godspeed. Have a good afternoon, actually. Afternoon and evening. Weird to be able to say that on here. I love you all, and I will see everyone soon.